already joined here. Good afternoon also, Dr. Chu. Happy to
Hi,
see
Dr.
you.
Ellie. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost my connection for a while and suddenly disappear from the meeting.
Don't worry. Take your time.
Okay. Actually, Javier is already over, but I don't know. Still, the connection. I leave the problem in my laptop, not for the connection itself. Oke, selamat siang semuanya. Terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada seluruh mahasiswa khususnya gitu dan seluruh partisipan yang sudah bergabung di kegiatan hari ini. Ya, kegiatan hari ini sebetulnya lanjutan dari guest lecture yang pertama, seri yang pertama mengenai alga, kemudian bagaimana kemudian melakukan kultivasi alga dan aplikasi alga pada berbagai bidang. Ya, saya berharap dari kegiatan hari ini Anda memperoleh banyak inspirasi, banyak wawasan terkait salah satu bidang riset yang dikembangkan di luar. Ya, so I just share with the student that this session is the second part of the first session related to the algae product and its application. So, and luckily because today we again meet the same speaker, but with different topic and much more interesting topic for each each the series that they will deliver today. So we have lost about 10 minutes from the schedule, so I will let Professor Shaw to start this first session and then continue directly with Dr. Chu. And then after that, we will start to have discussion. But first, let me allow me to share all of your achievement. So the student might have the inspiration for all of your achievement. A few of your achievement, because read almost all of your achievement will take almost all of this session. So I choose several of it, and then please, Professor Shaw also can directly let the participant knowing you well about it. Okay, everyone, let me introduce Professor Shaw. He is a professor in the Department of Chemical and Environmental Engineering, University of Nottingham, Malaysia. And this is only few of the achievement that we should. So please kindly notice to all of you that this is only a few. Still, Professor Shaw will be asked to describe all of this achievement to you all. But let me show you that he is a finalist in the Biochemical Engineering just recently in 2021, ICME Global Awards. And then the second is he got the Tansri Emeritus Professor Augustine is the own International Special Award on Innovation and Invention in Palm Oil 2021. And he is also 2020 Outstanding Reviewer in Water Environment Research. And last but not least, he is the top 20% scientist in the Stanford list. So now at least you have the description of Professor Shaw. And let me also share. Can I see the picture first? Okay, this is also few Professor Dr. Chu achievement. There's only few story of him. So still, I will ask Dr. Chu also to introduce himself. Okay, Dr. Chu now belongs to the School of Energy and Chemical Engineering at Xiamen University, Malaysia. And here is the few of recent honors, award, and also his achievement. He is the winner of GMA Young Researcher Award, GMA Global Award in 2020, and he is also the finalist for Young Scientist Network at Academy of Sciences Malaysia Rising Star Award in 2019, and he is a Vice Chancellor Medal in the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. So this is the third speaker in the first session, and I will show the other speaker in the second session. Okay, let me allow the speaker for starting the session. And again, happy and lucky to have you here. Okay, Professor Shaw and Dr. Chu, please kindly deliver your talk. And yours now, the stage on yours. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Healy. Can you see from my slide?
Yes.
All right.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Right, I think Dr. Healy have given great explanations. I think she has prepared a lot of done a lot of homework regarding the speaker. All right, so I would like to thank Dr. Healy for his nice introductions. So today I would like to thank the University of Pendidikan Indonesia for giving us the opportunity to do a presentation. So my name is Show Paulo, can call me Paulo. I'm from Nottingham, Malaysia. Right. So today I would like to talk about today's topic for world-class professor. We're going to talk about the IoT in microalgae biorefinery. All right. So it's a quick one since we have 30 minutes, and I will try my best to finish my slide within 30 minutes as well. All right. So before I start, I would like to share with you guys what is artificial intelligence, AI. A lot of people will talk about AI, right? So what is AI actually? All right, so let me share with you. AI actually is referred to as simulations of human intelligence in machines that are programmed to think like human and mimic their actions. So this is something that AI meanings. Okay, so meaning that we are trained the machines. Okay, we are trained the machine to act like us. actually the machine become a smart machine already. So what we think, what we want, actually exactly like a machine now. All right. So just to share with you the AI revolution. So first industry revolution, we are focus a lot in steam engine. All right. So you focus a lot on steam. That's why we have a lot of steam engine like trends. Yeah. All this is focused on steam engine. Then second industry revolution, we are focus a lot of this electric mobilized, motorized assembly line. So mean that that's why you can see a systematic motor. Yeah, all this is coming from the second industrial revolution. Then third industrial revolution, we are focus on robot arms. You can see automatic with robot. So this is the third industrial revolution. So now we are coming to this fourth industrial revolution, which is focused on production system that learn, adapt, and predicts. So this is more towards industry 4.0. That's why a lot of people talk about industry 4.0. What is this about? That's why we're combining with this robotic arm, this uh, uh, feedback control, all this together with this Internet of Things come with this cloud system. So this is all about industry 4.0. Right. So today I'm going to share with you why AI actually, why we need to, AI is so important. So the first one is automation. Automation we think is very important because automation will make system automatically. So without minimize human. Okay. Also we can minimize the human error. So second one is smart decision making. So we are making the smart decision because in nowadays we have a lot of decision to make, right? So we are not sure which decision is the best decision. So we need to think of which is a smart decision with the minimum of risk. All right. Third one is enhance customer experience. So because every customer have different expectations. So with the AI help, right, we can maximize the experience of the customer to fulfill all the customer requirements. Of course, this is to enhance it only. So we are not 100% able to fulfill. All right. So industry advancement. Some of the industry they need something advanced, right? So with this AI, they can help to industry advancement as well as research and data analysis. So this a lot of people now they talk about big data analysis, research analysis, all this because too much data, right? Even calculator also do not have that number already. So with the AI, right, we can calculate it fast and accurate. Right. Six is solving complex problem because nowadays we have so many problems. Yeah, so many issues happen at the same time. So with the AI, right, we can analyze it systematically and solve it systematically as well, and reduce manpower. Yes, of course, in AI, we cannot replace manpower, but what we can do is reduce manpower in this process. So they can see, because we can make the system automatically, also reduce the error by manpower, right? So that's why we also can reduce the manpower. With this, right, all things can be done by robot. And managing repetitive tasks, yeah, everything, same things that we can use robot arm to repeat it. And also minimizing the error, as I mentioned, and also last but not least, increase the efficiency. So whenever all things come together, definitely efficiency will increase. Right. So let me continue. Second is because my topic is AI in microalgae biorefinery. So I will talk about what AI, what is microalgae, then what is biorefinery. So just to share with you, this is a microalgae. Right. Microalgae actually is a photosynthetic plant which can grow rapidly, go very fast, can grow with the help of carbon dioxide, sunlight, and nutrient-rich water. Right. So the ranging from unicellular to multicellular, which is size ranging from 0.5 unit, okay, micrometer, which is we call microalgae, to 100-meter macroalgae, which can be very long. Okay, so this is like seaweed. Seaweed actually is type of macroalgae, right? So in this is a composition of a microalgae. Can be carbohydrate, protein, lipid. So microalgae require sunlight, water, inorganic carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So for carbon tasks, for this carbohydrate, it can produce by ethanol, bioethanol, and plastic. While protein can produce a lot of animal feed like cosmetic product and biofertilizer. While lipid can produce a lot of these biofuel, example as biodiesel. Right. Of course, we have other components composition in microalgae that's valuable product, including vitamin, mineral, pigment, polyunsaturated fatty acid, and many more. Right. So as I mentioned, you got three major source. One is a source of light. Source of light can be open pond or artificial pond. Artificial light. Open pond normally is sunlight. Yeah. For artificial light, normally is producing photobioreactor, which is this is photobioreactor. This is the sunlight. All right. So you can see from here. So second one, the nutrient actually can be wastewater nutrient, seawater nutrient, or freshwater nutrient. So different nutrient, different strain of microalgae require different nutrient. That's why different composition, different water can be different nutrient as well. Last but not least, which is source of carbon. Source of carbon can get it from carbon dioxide, can get it from industry as well. So this is some of the minimum requirement for microalgae. But I think this is very good because all this right is free of charge. Example, sunlight is free of charge, nutrient wastewater is free of charge, carbon dioxide, which is free of charge as well, because what we want is reduce carbon dioxide, and this is free, yeah. And at the same time, we can help the environment. So this is something like we can help the world as well as to reduce the waste. So this is something like circular economy. All right. So to share with you guys, the algae protein contained inside the microalgae. So for information, microalgae content can be very rare because depend on the strength. Can be 10% to 70%. So the most microalgae content, which is spirulina, which contains 70% of the protein. All right. So of course, different strain of microalgae have different concentration of protein. So compared to other crop depth, you can see microalgae contain more protein. So what very interesting to share with you guys is land required for producing 100 kg 100,000 kg of protein only requires 0.7 to 2.5 hectare of land compared to other crops. So you can see microalgae really require less land compared to other crops. All right, so a little bit more result to share with you the facts and fair, which is algae lipid. So you can see algae lipid actually require require less land, as I mentioned, more yield and more biomass oil compared to other crops as well. So this is very promising lipid as well as promising protein from microalgae. So today I would like to share with you the growing algae for biofuel. Just a quick one. I believe you have seen this. Yeah, if you're working in microalgae for biofuel research, definitely you understand this video. Actually, this is a home-based video to share with you how to grow microalgae for biofuel. All right, so I hope you can see this.
These are some tiny petri dishes of algae. The algae are transferred to a growing pond filled with seawater. A paddle wheel is used to keep it circulating and growing evenly. A light simulates sunlight. A few days go by. The pond has now grown bright green and thick with algae. Now it's being drained. The algae are isolated from the water. The cell walls are crushed to free the oil. A little hexane is added to separate the oil. Sodium hydroxide is mixed with methanol and used to convert the oil into fuel. Pay special attention to the top layer because that is a low-emission biofuel.
So this is something related to how to convert from microalgae biomass to biofuel. So it's very simple process. I think just require biomass, then removing a water from removing some chemical, then on the top of the layer is a biofuel already. So today I would like to introduce the new biorefinery techniques we call liquid biophasing system. Right? What is liquid biophasing system? Actually, liquid biophasing system actually liquid partition method of two liquid phases. Right? So we are very successful recover and separate many bioactive compounds such as color, pigment, protein, carbohydrate, lipid, vitamin, mineral, enzyme, nutrient, aroma, heavy metal, additive. So whatever that you name it, right? So we can use this liquid biophasing system to do the separation for use. So in order to prepare this liquid biophasing, actually very simple, just require two steps. The first one is mixing and gender seeking. Just how you make coffee. I believe you make coffee less than 2 minutes, right? Just require coffee powder, sugar, creamer, and hot water. So just mixing and set that under gravity force. You can see the two layers very obviously. So the main factor affecting this liquid biophase is actually there's two factors. The first one is the phase forming component. I believe just like how you make coffee, the type of the coffee bean used is very important. The second one is the concentration of the phase forming component. The main fatty component we have the character as a self-destructive agent as well as separation and proliferation agent. Right. So you can see self-destruction agent, we put the phase forming inside here, then you can see this will disrupt the cell. All right, so you put the phase forming component and we attach the surface bubble, then you will break the cell. All right. So the second is a second phase forming component. All right. Second phase forming, we put the phase forming inside it and add as a separation purification agent. So you can see the partitioning from the bottom to the top, which is a purified target active compound. Right, this is a phase forming component. All right, second one is the concentration of the phase forming component. Why I say so is important because below critical concentration become miscible and homogeneous single phase. Above the critical concentration, it becomes turbid and form two phases. So this is a phase diagram. So why liquid purification system is so important? Because in bioprocess divided into upstream and downstream. For the upstream, right, if fermentation and cell harvesting, while downstream involve a series of long process. Yeah, we start with the self-destruction, purification, and pollution. And downstream processing require 80% of the total manufacturing cost of this. That's why you like or not, you have to think a solution to reduce the cost of this downstream processing. So the benefit using liquid purification system actually is high water content because we can see we leave a lot of live organisms. Example, which is protein, micro, all this is live organism. So high water content is very important to make sure the activity of this active compound can maintain. Second one is low interface tension. It's not like oil and water has high interface tension, but this liquid purification system is low interface tension. So easy for the penetration from the bottom phase to the top phase and the unwanted things from the top phase to bottom phase. So this is easy partition. Third one is rapid processing, less than 10 minutes. I believe you make coffee do not need more than 10 minutes, right? So this is very fast process. Stabilizing effect, yeah, special property of the phase forming, and all these phase forming do not have with a negative effect on this partitioning. Then large scale applications, yeah, less than 10 minutes, yeah, and just involve a mixing of water. So definitely you can scale up more than 10 liters. Simple operation, as I mentioned, just mixing and centrifugation. In fact, we develop a method which should not require to have a mixing and shaking, which is called liquid purification flotation. Minimal engineering required, which is shaking and centrifugation only. Low investment cost, recycling chemical that we use. Yeah, you can see later I will show you how we do the recycling chemical. Environmental friendly, no toxic phase forming component in this system. As well, we already proven it's high yield, high recovery, and high purity. So today I'll share with you is the integrated with thermosensitive polymer we call thermoseparating purification system. We integrated with bubble, as I mentioned to you just now, we not required to have mixing and centrifugation. We call liquid purification flotation system. Third one is integrated with upstream and downstream, which is extractive technology in liquid purification system. Right, so how this thermoseparating purification system work? Actually very simple. Just you make your first one is your culture proof or fermentation culture. Inside here, then you mix together with thermoseparating polymer. Thermoseparating polymer can be polyethylene glycol or whatever. So heat up above the critical solution temperature, we form two phases. All right, so two phases you can see you combine with combine it, you will see top phase consists of water-rich top phase, bottom phase consists of EOPO, which is ethylene oxide, propylene oxide, bottom phase we can recycle the phase forming component. All right, so how this liquid purification flotation system actually combining with the concept of solvent submersion together in liquid purification system, right? So what is solvent submersion? Solvent submersion actually is a bubbling concept, okay? So this is a gas passing through a cylinder gas to form bubble. So I'm combining this solvent submersion together with liquid purification system to come up with the liquid purification flotation. This is the gas passing through a cylinder gas to form bubble. So the bubble will have the ability to attach to the surface of this bioactive compound. So the bubble will flow the top phase, reach the top phase, another phase forming component, we do a second layer of separation. So this is the phase forming component, right? So this is how the liquid purification system flotation system works. So let me share with you this the parameter in liquid purification flotation system. So we have a lot of parameter. Of course, the more parameter optimized, the more pure that you will get. Just like how you make coffee, right? You make different, you must have different amount of the coffee bean inside, different amount of the sugar, creamer, and temperature and water you put inside. This is the parameter. Of course, yeah. When you have fixed the parameter, I think the following batch should do the same things. Okay, this is molecular polymer, constant of salt, all this one until the flotation time. So this is how we do it. Yeah, we extract the lipid from the microalgae. This is the gas passing through a cylinder gas. We form a bubble. This bubble will have the EOPO phase. Will capture the lipid on top of the microalgae, then we remove the EOPO, we heat it up to critical solution temperature, we form two phases. Top phase consists of EOPO, bottom phase consists of EOPO, top phase consists of lipid. You just remove the water, you get a pure lipid already. So this is how the extraction of lipid from microalgae. All right, the last but not least, which is how extract technology system in liquid purification system. Okay, this is actually one stone killing more than two birds. So one phase we come up with a phase forming component plus a feed plus a microalgae. So this is neutral. We do the normal cultivation microalgae. we after certain day we start to harvest already, we stop accretion, we heat it upper to critical solution temperature. You form two phases. Top phase consists of byproduct, which is product you want, and we just remove the water, you get a pure product. While bottom phase consists of concentrated phase forming component plus the biomass, which you can recycle. So this is how we do the extract technology in liquid biphase system. Alright, so how we combine this IoT together with this extract system? Of course, we have this sensor, so we can send amount of the things you put inside, amount of the biomass you concentrate, this is the water you put in. So this is I capture it from the YouTube. You can see this is how we do this the concept, similar concept with this smart extraction technology. So we have simulation of stimulus of cultivation and biorefinery of microalgae. So you can see this is how we do it, right? So we heat up about the critical soil temperature, all this biomass will on the top one. So when we heat up about critical soil temperature, this biomass will flow down. Alright, so you can see on top layer actually is a oil, in the middle is water, and the bottom one is a biomass which you can recycle. So this is how to do it. Of course we implement with this sensor inside. We can measure the concentration of the oil, concentration of water, and concentration of the biomass. We can do recycling. So this is a smart extractive technology system in liquid biphase system. Alright, so this is how we plan to do it in our lab. You can see this is how we do the cultivation of microalgae using floating system. So this is a bubble concept, and this is we put the ultrasound to break the cell wall. Right, so how this integrated with AI with microalgae. Right, so you can see a lot of this system. You can see this is a design, building, build and test, then together with this phenomenon, then come with the IoT industry. We have this Wi-Fi to control seed culture. We control it, controller, then the nutrient, medium and cleaning. This is a photobioreactor. So we have come with biomass, dewatering, come with product extraction and packaging. Of course, everything controlled by database, digital twins, simulation, and data analysis. And this one can be applied in food industry, water industry, and a lot of environmental. Okay, so this AI. So this is one of the slides that I got it from my collaborator, which is from Taiwan. Actually, they are using this IoT to control the whole system for circular bioeconomy. So how to kickstart with? Actually, you can see the stream farming. Okay, start with stream farming. Then the stream farming will get the water from the a lot of animal like big animals. Then with this wastewater will generate all this electricity at the same time. From the electricity we generate all carbon dioxide. So you can use the water to generate to culture microalgae. At the same time, we produce algae biomass. We have lutein, EPA, DHA. We have functional algae biomass. So this one we use to feed the stream, use as a liquid fertilizer. Then we continue again. Everything controlled by IoT or AI system. Right. So this is my last slide to share with you the microalgae. All right. So I hope you can see the slide here. Let's see. Okay. Better can see. Let me see. I think not able to see the video here. No worry. So this will be my last slide. So I'd like to thanks again. So I'm very responsive. You can email me. You can contact me through email. This is my line, my WeChat, my WhatsApp, and my Facebook and my group website. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Shaw, for very interesting topic, usual.
Yeah.
And participants, please don't hesitate to ask your questions. Don't worry, you can write down your question in the chat box, or even directly ask the question to Professor Shaw. And just before you ask directly to Professor Shaw, let's continue our session to Dr. Chu first, and then you can also write down your questions while Dr. Chu do his presentation. Okay, Dr. Chu, stage on yours.
Thanks, Dr. Heli, and wonderful presentation from Prof. Shaw.
Yep.
Continue. Right, yeah, thanks everyone for joining this session. Once again, a big thank you to Dr. Heli from Universities Pendidikan Indonesia for inviting us to give some insight talks on our research. So from the last talk, right, my topic was on the microalgae biorefinery, and for this round, I'll be going into the algae utilization in the development of green cities. So I think Dr. Heli has already explained, right, on some of my achievements, so I'll just go very briefly. Right, so I'm from the School of Energy and Chemical Engineering from Salmon University, Malaysia. I've recently opened my own algae technology research group, just opened in September 2021. Okay, and prior to this, I was an assistant professor in the University of Nottingham, Malaysia, followed by researchers in 3 different groups. That includes the Bioseparation Research Group, Food and Pharmaceutical Engineering Research Group, and also the Nanotechnology and Catalysis Research Center at the University of Malaya. So my research interests includes bioprocess design for upstream and downstream processing, biorefinery, renewable energy, and sustainable bioprocessing. Hopefully, at the end of this session, we can come up with some of the new ideas that we can work together in pertaining to the sustainable development goals. So these are just the achievements that have already been mentioned very nicely by Dr. Heli. Thank you for that. So my topic will cover just briefly on the introduction to green cities, concept of a green city, green versus smart city, algae sustainable cities, right, algae powered cities, as well as their potential and the outlook for cities of the future. So actually a green city is constituted as any kinds of city that has green, okay, has many forms of nature. So when we have a lot of trees, a lot of grass, right, or we have algae growing, this can be constituted as a green city. Right? Compared to, there's a lot of these bustling cities, which they have many high-rise buildings, and then they release a lot of these pollutions. Right? These are known as the normal cities, and when they incorporate anything, right, solar powered lamps, or any form of integrated wastewater treatment, this can make one city become green. Right? And the main aim of having a green city is to preserve the nature as well as to protect the environment. Right? This is not just for a short-term goal, but in the long-term outlook, we're always trying to find ways to make our cities as green as possible. Right? That means that the flora and fauna can coexist with humans, and they can both live in the same environment without both sides compromising on each other. A green city consists of 4 main frameworks here. Right? First one is the amount of greenery that is attached to a green city. Right? This is dependent on the kind of sectors. So there's the wastewater sector, there's the food sector, right? There's the industry sector, and each of this sector can incorporate their own style of greenery, right? Depending on what is their operation, and from there they can utilize the corresponding needs. And we have the green growth and equity principles. So this is to manage how much of the green environmental impact has been reduced, right? So this can be measured maybe through carbon dioxide release, right? The toxic gas release, what is the climate change in a certain region. So they can measure what is the rate, then they can decide whether we are moving forwards or backwards. Okay, then the third framework is through the spatial planning. So we can't get a green city if we do not plan the layout properly. Right? So if we keep on building and building, then eventually we're cutting down more forests and we will lose out on the green land. Right? So instead of just reducing and keep on developing areas, we need to see what is the best way to fully utilize the areas and also implement some of the green technologies within. Okay, and the last one is the energy efficiency, as well as to incorporate this renewable energy, right, in the form of clean energy. Right? That means we no longer depend on fossil fuels. We can use bioenergy, bioelectricity, biohydrogen, all to power up cars, buildings, right, the factories, right? This will constitute as a green form of energy. And these 4 statements here are the people who are involved, right? The stakeholders, they'll be involved inside deciding what is the best way to have an efficient energy, to incorporate greeneries within the city, okay, to promote green growth, and also to plan for the land. This includes the support from the government, policies, regulations related to climate change, and also the environmental policies in individual regions, as well as new projects and plans. So a green city, a good green city should include green technologies, right? Something like Prof. Shru has just shown just now, something related to the internet communication technology, right? Internet of Things. When we incorporate automation into a system, right, that means we reduce the time needed to process, we can reduce labor need, okay, then we can save a lot of time, energy, right? This is a good way to save. Can save more energy, then we don't have to, then it constitutes as a green process. The second way is the urban agricultural, right, using the technology of vertical farming. Since more and more cities are becoming more developed, so there's less area to plant all these agricultural crops, right? You need a lot of land for crops, and people are trying to utilize the space to the maximum that they can. So one of the solution is through vertical farming, so that they can plant more crops in a smaller area of land. Right? Then the third one is the green infrastructure. This is through the stormwater system. Stormwater includes water that comes from the rain. Rainwater is natural, right? So when the sky has accumulated sufficient, then rainwater will just flow into the streets, right? When it rains very heavily, and into the drainage system, all the way to the sewage treatment plant to supply water to us. So if we have a proper system that can effectively collect all this, not only we can prevent flooding, right, but we can utilize this natural water source without the need to generate our own water. Next, we have the green transportation. Right? Transit-oriented development is a kind of development where people do not rely on self-transportation to get to another location. Right? So if a country has a lot of land, then maybe the house to the city, right? You need a transportation. You need your own car in order to go there. But for developing cities, right? Maybe if the land is there's not enough land area, what they try to do is they build everything in quite nearby to each other. Means that from your house, you can just walk out, you can take a bus shortly to a train station, then from the train station, you can go to the nearby mall. Okay? If everything is interconnected, then you don't need to have your own transportation. You can rely on the public transportation, and this constitutes as the transit-oriented development. Next, we go to green buildings. Green building, this is a wide concept. So if the building uses anything from clean energy sources, then we can constitute, right, that as a green building. So solar power, wind energy, right, hydro energy. And the last one is the greening of public services. Right? This is one of the most common things. Right? Every day there's processing of the sanitation, the water and the waste management. So if we can incorporate some of the green processes into this very essential services that are provided to us, then we can help to promote, right, the effectiveness of the green city. So actually there is two concepts. One is the green city and one is the smart city, right? So these two are they are both equally very new, okay, and they're very futuristic, right? But they have different concepts. The green city comprises more towards the network of the living organisms together with us. That means flora, fauna, and humans will coexist in the same environment. Whereas for the smart city, you will see less greenery here. This is more towards the internet communication, where systems are run more towards the robotic technology rather than to rely on the natural sources. So both have their advantages and both also have their disadvantages. I'll just go briefly for the green city. Right, green city, that means that we will have the complete built structure, equivalent flow of water, right? So we have a diverse biological system, and somehow it is more towards nature. Right? So you have very nice landscapes, very nice streetscapes, and then it's more pleasing as you have nature growing together inside the city. But this kind of city may not be as modern and as technological as a smart city. Right, smart city, then you have the autonomous operation, you have drones, delivery bots handling all this, and some of this automated processing, they can also generate clean energy. Right, so both are also capable of providing a much greener outlook. Okay, for green city, you have access to the nature and recreation, and for the smart city, you're always connected, it's efficient, it can make sure that citizens are more safe and the systems will be more responsive. And of course, the ideal solution is to combine both the green and the smart city into a green smart city. Right? Then we can incorporate the best of nature together with the best of the technological advances, which is from the smart city. So what I'm currently researching on is the development of this algae green city. Green city can be generated through plants. We can plant trees, a lot of trees to generate, blow up the carbon footprint. But what I'm more interested in is how we can implement this algae, right? Algae as a form of aquatic plants in order to develop this green city. So algae has been proven to be able to clean the air quality. Right, through their cultivation, they can absorb large quantity of carbon dioxide, and just like plants, they produce oxygen. Right, so this will reduce the carbon footprint and also help in climate change. Algae can be also grown in wastewater, so they will absorb up the nutrients from wastewater and be converted into biomass. So this will clean the water source. The residual algae can be used as fertilizer, right, in order to fertilize the soil. Algae itself has a lot of bioproducts, right? Biomolecules, lipids, carbohydrates, and protein, and this can be converted into bioenergy. So for energy purpose and used for recycling, right? The water that used to cultivate algae, they're actually more purified, right? If they come from wastewater, and then maybe if they're safer, we can use it as a fertilizing, just a light fertilizing source. And since algae is also part of the aquatic plants, right, it's green in color, so it can create the outlook of a green space, right? So we can generate something like plant is something that is calming, right, for us. And we can also consume algae as a nutritional source, as functional food. So this will be advantageous as additional bioproducts. And whereas for the smart city, we have the Internet of Things, as long as everything that is connected within the industry, security, retail, society, healthcare, home, energy, and mobility. A smart city is just a modern city that has everything interconnected within one framework. Right? Maybe this will highly depend on the internet, right, in order to transmit all the necessary data and to generate the results, right, to optimize the system, to see what humans in this region need, humans in that region need, and then they will supply it accordingly. So yeah, as also mentioned previously, if you are familiar with algae, algae is actually very easy to grow. All they require is carbon dioxide, sunlight, water, and minimal nutrients. Right, so nutrients we can get from wastewater. Carbon dioxide are always available from the processing plants. We can also use the alternative, which is wastewater or the waste byproducts from processes. Sunlight, again, is free, right? Free from, it's an infinite source. And lastly, water, which is also widely available. So using these easily available inputs, we can then cultivate the algae and obtain the biomass. Right? Biomass is the final form of algae, which we can then later use for processing. So at the next step, we will then process this microalgae through biorefinery or through single-step processes in order to get what we want, okay, which is the value-added products. The lipid portion can be used for generating biofuels. Algae is a plant, right? So it will give us oxygen, it will give us clean water. It has good proteins. Some of the algae have very valuable pigments and also antioxidant properties, which can be used for health supplements. Green energy through lipids and carbohydrate, and the more recent advances is the carbohydrate portion for bioplastics, right? Because also algae and microalgae, both they have some form. I think algae has more of the gelatin, right, which we can actually use in as a replacement for biodegradable plastics. Also, they have other compounds, the proteins, which can support animal feed, fish meal. And the remaining portion, after it has been processed, can be used as an organic amendment or biofertilizer. So the concept of using algae and microalgae for energy production, right, starts with the algae facility. So carbon dioxide is channeled to this algae facility together with the source of sunlight, which is free, right? So you can imagine that if the building, instead of putting normal walls, if we line the walls of the building with these algae panels here, then these algae panels will just uptake the carbon dioxide that is supplied to the facility together with the sunlight that will be projected to this building. So at the same time of operating inside this building, right, instead of putting the wall, we can replace with the panel, and the algae will eventually grow within the building. And once they are matured, it will be harvested and then sent to an algae processing plant. Right, then through any form of bioprocessing, biorefinery steps, right, there's actually many methods which we can use to break the cells of microalgae and then extract the compounds that we desire. So this compound will then become, the algae biomass will be converted into algae oil, algae carbohydrate, algae proteins. Right? And these are some of the functions, either they're energetic usage for energy and non-energetic usage. So non-energetic usage is usually for functional food, nutritional supplements, animal feed, proteins, right? And the lipid portion, which is highly sought after for energy, can be converted into bioelectric, biogas, or biofuel. And since this is an electrical power source, so this energy that is generated will be channeled into the energy system, right, within the city. Then they will be able to use this power and supply them to consumers. At the same time, since this is an excess power, so the power can also be channeled back through hot water and electric into the algae facility. So you can see that this will actually close a loop, right, where algae generates its own biomass and then generates its own electricity in order to power back the building. At the same time, if it can generate excess product, we have additional bioproducts here. Okay, the other portion that is not used for energy, and we have also excess energy which we can supply to the consumers. So eventually, this is not just a closed cycle here, but we get additional products which will generate profit and then can be used to optimize the system, maintenance, and so on. That previous one was for this usual normal kind of algae cultivation in the normal medium. Now the second part here is when we want to utilize the microalgae for wastewater treatment. So instead of just now that one, previous one is on building by itself, this one is on the wastewater treatment. So currently, most of the wastewater plants utilize the most conventional and straightforward process in order to treat their wastewater. But this algae actually has very good potential to be incorporated within the system, right? Especially at the secondary and tertiary treatment. At the primary treatment, it is still, the sludge is still very thick, right? And so maybe the compounds have not undergo the first phase of treatment, whereas microalgae may not be able to handle that much of the load. So I think a few researchers have found that when algae is implemented in the secondary or tertiary treatment, they are more effective in reducing the already broken down compounds, okay, within the wastewater. Of course, wastewater itself has many, it will always vary, right? The composition within the wastewater. Some wastewater has more of this compound, some has more of different kinds of compound. And it's not a fixed rate, right? But the wastewater will always contain the necessary nutrients that is required by algae in order to survive. So since wastewater also has bacteria, right, naturally, so this researchers have been done in order to investigate the algae and the bacteria interaction within a same system. And certain algae strains, they can actually work very well with the bacteria in order to degrade the compounds within the wastewater, thus generating more biomass. So not just the algae biomass, but also the bacteria biomass, which can all be sent into processing. So let's say if we were to implement the algae bacterial treatment inside the secondary or tertiary treatment, so we will have something like an open pond, right, filled with the wastewater. Then we will incorporate the algae inside. We will have sufficient aeration, and we will get the free sunlight, okay, as from the sun source. After this treatment, then we will proceed to a secondary clarifier where we will separate out the cleaner water, okay, maybe for final processing before it's been transported to consumers. And all this algae will actually sediment down, okay, at the clarifier, and they'll be sent to a thickening machine, right, in order to remove the water content. Right? Because in the end, we want the final biomass, which is actually in the form of drier and more concentrated form. Right? So we don't need so much of water. This will be proceeded at the thickening process. If not, some parts of the harvested biomass can also be sent into the anaerobic digestion for processing, okay, into biogas. This can be done directly together with some of the primary sludge. That means instead of just using primary sludge, we can have the combination of primary sludge as well as the harvested biomass in order to run this digestion process. Then finally, we will get some biogas and digest it, which we can then further process into other forms of products. And this here actually in this algae bacteria synthesis, right, some of the bacteria, right, they can attack microalgae, so they can kill the microalgae source. That's why for this kind of implementation, we need to choose the correct microalgae strain that can withstand not just the wastewater conditions, right, the toxic chemicals inside, but at the same time, the algae that we select should be able to coexist, okay, with the bacteria through a symbiosis reaction. And if the algae and bacteria strain happens to be suitable, then they will be able to help each other, and they will grow into, they will obtain a higher productivity, and then both of them can be harvested. At the same time, they will also reduce the toxic content within the wastewater. Okay, so the importance and the need for this green city will actually is included and emphasized in these 4 sustainable development goals. First of them is to promote zero hunger. So if we can find a new source, right, something like algae or sustainable agricultural, vertical farming, using the urban farming and urban agricultural system, then perhaps we can generate more output compared to the existing production rate, and not just the increasing the output, but increasing the quality, okay, of existing food materials. And this will be able to provide affordable food sources, right, to all citizens, right, to end the hunger, and also to end the impact that has been created on food security. Secondly, to have the clean water and sanitization. This is through implementing natural ways of bioremediating wastewater. So we don't have to use too much of chemicals. We can use algae source in order to purify one phase of the wastewater treatment, and then this will actually save on the processing, and at the same time we can get the microalgae biomass. So that will provide clean water, affordable and clean energy. This is through algae and microalgae, which can help to the composition, the lipid composition, can be converted into biofuels, bioelectricity, biohydrogen, right, which is indirectly a source of clean energy. This can actually reduce our reliance on the fossil fuels, the petroleum we use, right? If we can generate sufficient quantity of this algae, then we can start to mass produce the biofuels, right, to replace the existing petroleum. And lastly, something that is in urgent need, which is the climate change, right? Although at the start of the COVID, right, many industries have closed down, so I think we all could see a change in the climate, right? So it was starting to get better, but now that many of the industries have resumed back, so we're getting back into the same stage, right, where climate change is always in urgent need. And the only solution is to cut down on the processing, right, cut down on the release of all this toxic gas, right, which contributes to global warming, and anything that can uptake, right, the carbon from the air. This will help to reduce the impact that we're causing to the environment. The vision is to create an algae-powered city where we have the trees, plants, and algae coexisting and being implemented in buildings, right? So we can have an algae-powered lamp, waste management system, right? Wastewater system using algae cultivation to remediate the wastewater sources, algae-powered buildings by putting these algae planes on the walls of buildings so that they can absorb the free light, free nutrients, at the same time generate biomass for us to produce. And cars that are powered by algae fuel. So if we can properly integrate the usage of algae, microalgae as an alternative plant source into a green city, then we can utilize the best of its capacity. Right? Not just for the urban agricultural, but also in the form of an aquatic plants. Right? Usual crops are grown in land, so if we can consider to have this aquatic plant through algae and microalgae, which has a lot of advantages, then we can incorporate it into our existing buildings and then create a green city. Right, so this was the example. I think this one is in Germany. They have created this building where this planes here. Okay, so instead of behind this board here is actually the wall, okay, but instead of just putting the normal wall, so they incorporate this algae panels, flat panels bioreactor on the walls of this building, right? Because sunlight is always being projected into all the buildings, and since this one's at the side, so they have two lanes here which are not covered. Therefore, sunlight will always be projected on them, and this sunlight can be uptaken, right, by algae growing within these panels, where carbon dioxide and the nutrients are already pre-supplied in the panels. So this will actually, and since the microalgae also consume sunlight as a source, so indirectly it will help to cool down the building. So instead of having the hot air penetrate to the building, the sunlight will be absorbed, okay, by the algae for them to grow. So you get both the benefits, right? We still get the shading, we get algae sources, and we can convert it into biomass. And once we have the biomass, biomass can be converted into energy and repower back this building. Okay, so this will make it a self-sustainable building. We also have different kinds of green technology. Of course, we have solar. We can incorporate solar panels to them. We can incorporate different kinds of energy depending on what is available. But instead of those technologies, we can consider the algae technologies for green cities. Right? Because algae is not just for bioenergy, we can also use it for bioproducts and functional food, right? Development of beautifying. Sometimes if a building has too many solar planes, it may not look very nice, but for a new concept like algae, right, it still represents something that is grown as in the form of a green crop, right? So maybe it's more pleasing to the eye. And yeah, it can also promote tourism, right? People are very interested to see something that is very green, right? Instead of the like solar panels, which is maybe very black, very dull for buildings. So if you can generate something that is very nice, right? Everything is in green color, then yeah, definitely people will be more interested for this. So a few of the key potentials within the algae green city is, of course, to provide the better quality of life. So when a city is more green, we can save more energy, and at the same time, we can generate more useful products in order to help the citizens and to provide these materials in a more affordable manner. Developing this green city, right, since it is a new concept and we need to change the structures within existing cities, so we will have more jobs, right, and more fundings for the research and development in order to incorporate and to maximize the efficiency of implementing this green city. At the same time, leading to this carbon neutral world, right, the most important thing is to reduce the carbon content. Of course, cities that are still developing, right, we can implement this through further planning. Right? So instead of developing everything and then incorporating this algae concept into the green city, we can start by having a proper planning where we can incorporate this algae green city concept into the development plans, so that while the city is developing, they can start to incorporate these useful green technologies in order for energy saving, less pollution, right? And if we can possibly make them all closer together, then we can even reduce the need for traffic, transportation, which is a major contributor to the global warming. So it all starts with the energy and the resources we have, then the main four processing here, the raw material extraction, manufacturing, distribution, the recycling, right? If all of this can be transform into a more greener processing, right, then we can actually reduce the emissions and the waste. These 4 processes actually contribute majorly to the emission and waste. So we need to emphasize on these 4 main processes and convert them in a more greener and efficient technology. Right, whether it's getting the raw material source, right, renewable sources like algae, right, this will be very potential green manufacturing process, things that are produced in large scale. So if we can implement some of the smart technologies, like automation inside, we can save energy, and we can also save the wastage, which is good. And then distribution. So if a city is smaller, right, then the distribution will be easier. So we don't have to go into very far places just to distribute the goods. Everything can be done within the same city, right? Then we will not need large transportation, large delivery mediums, right? We can just transport them through the available transport medium. And lastly, the potential to recycle existing compounds. So like for algae, once we have extracted what we want, we also try to use the remaining biomass. So let's say if I've extracted lipids, proteins, then the remaining biomass may still have some of the carbohydrate or minor nutrient contents, which can be used as fertilizer instead of throwing it away. So there are many factors that can contribute towards making a good green city. Right, but these are just a few examples, right? A city that can implement green technologies, can implement efficient energy saving, are all constitute as a green city. Right? As long as they can have some innovative climate solutions to reduce the carbon footprint, right? Whether it's through recycling, composting programs, this can be done through local communities, makes use of infill developments, right? This is through the construction site, green leadership. So the person in charge, right, the mayor of each city should be helping to advocate, right, towards having a greener lifestyle, to ask people to follow this greener way, right? Greener lifestyle, maybe recycle more of the things that they use, right? Use less plastics, or share the transportation, right? Of course, again, depending on the region and depending on everyone's trend and lifestyle. And on the government's part, the implementation of smart energy policy, right, using equipments, using this existing household items that can contribute towards energy saving, right, and having a good green fun landscape, right, and also generation. For the infrastructures, we need to create plentiful of parks, right, which includes the trees, right, and a recreational area, right, compared to the smart city, which you don't see any green. So if we want to generate green city, then we need to incorporate some of these greeneries, efficient public transportation, right, so that we can reduce the need for self-transportation, quality public space where people can enjoy nature at the same time contribute back, right, through planting, or nature can also provide natural shade, right? So we don't have to build so many roofs or so many shading. We can use natural trees to do that. Okay, bicycle lanes instead of using cars, right? Transportation, high for green buildings, and the linkage with economy. So when there's the development of more green infrastructure, then there will be more need for new jobs, new people to process this green. Okay, so I think this is the last part here. Okay, I just want to mention slightly on the cities of the future. I think some of the countries are also going towards this direction, where they're creating urban hubs that can sustainably use the land. Right? So global population is increasing, and the amount of land available is getting less. Right? More and more countries are expanding. Right? Townships are expanding, and people are actually using up more land. So we need to find a balance between preserving nature, but at the same time being able to accommodate the increasing human population. Right, so just a few examples, like the usage of green roofs, solar panels, roof gardens. Right, this will actually help to, for solar panels, we can generate electricity, right? So we can have sustainable energy And if people are willing to take care of roof gardens, this can also become a small scale farming. Because when we build something on a plot of land, then that land is taken, right? But if we have a rooftop farming like this, that means we can still utilize that land area, although we build something on it, but there is still that land. And this land is good because it is the sunlight will reach it. Right? So anything that can get free sunlight, especially plants which require sunlight to grow, we should not waste that land. Right? Instead of leaving it blank, so we should utilize it appropriately. Second is the rainwater cleansing. Right, rainwater is actually one of the most useful natural source of water, right, to generate. So we need more efficient system to collect as much rainwater as possible so that we can reuse them, we can process and then treat them. The social transit, right, which is in the form of transportation. So again, this one depends on the city's arrangement. Right? Some cities, they are smaller, they're more compact, so you can get from one place to another without the need of a car. Okay, but sometimes if the land is very big, so everyone's house is very far away from each other, and maybe the house to the nearest mall is also very far, so you will need maybe your own self-transportation. Maybe walking will take too long. So if it is possible to build a compact city, right, then we can accommodate everyone within the same region, and we can reduce the need for self-transportation. Lastly is to incorporate the urban farm and agricultural technology in order to use the most updated recent technology to improve the productivity and also the quality of crops. And this is another self-contained neighborhood. This one is when it is designed for everyone to be able to meet all the daily necessities within a short walk. Right? So maybe this could be the place where they stay, and this is the city, just divided by one region here, which they can transport through the railway, right, or underground trains. So if we can have a compact city like this, we can promote the usage of clean energy, right, through solar powers, wind turbines, or if it's near to the sea, then we can even incorporate the hydro energy. Okay, drone computing to monitor the city, right? Because if the city region is not very large, then we can send out some drones to help monitor. We can know this is useful for crime prevention or just to monitor any emergencies, any fires, anything, right, can be observed and can be notified to the authorities immediately through drone computing. Wetland restoration, right, still have some parts of to collect back the water and to preserve the nature site. Flexible buildings, depending on the interior and how best that they can utilize the green infrastructure within their own buildings. Underground farming, right? Because once the land above the area above the mainland has been taken up for this skyscraper building, then we will need sufficient land, additional land, in order to cultivate the crops, right, which is a part of the food. So maybe we can consider underground. But underground farming, we will then require these natural synthetic sunlight sources. So if we can build them above the ground, then we can still utilize the free sunlight sources, which is more sustainable. And of course, the strategic landscape, right, which means to build landscape that incorporate both the smart technologies and also green technologies. Excuse me. So yeah, once again, my research, right, is working more towards this several fields here: microalgae, renewable energy, biomass, bioprocess design, waste management, sustainable resources, bioseparations, remediation, and algae technology. So currently I'm looking very much into fully utilizing algae as the potential to create green cities. So I'm also working on some of the designs of the flat panel, right, which we can incorporate into buildings, and the processing and how we can fully utilize this algae. So these are a sample of few projects and some of my collaborators. And yeah, since developing this algae technology research group, I have one PhD student, Ting Ling, a few FYPs, and also graduate research assistants who have been supporting my group. And these are some of their achievements. So thank you so much, everyone, for your patience and your kindness. Right, so this will conclude the end of my presentation.
Again, thank you, Dr. Chu, for very, very inspiring presentation.
Thanks,
today.
Dr.
I believe that what a presenter in the first session really inspire the participant with all the idea that what are shared today. So now let's come up to the discussion session in the chat box. First, I would like to welcome some participants who already joined. Dr. Wen, Dr. Yin Chun, Dr. Ying, and also Dr. Rahmania from Green, and also Dr. Elgan, Dr. Samuel, Dr. Wahini, and Dr. Yusrianti, and Dr. Dewi Kurniati, and also all of my students, especially who already joined this session. Okay, let's come to the first questions from Ibu Dr. Rahmania. Okay. Professor Shaw, have you applied the artificial intelligence system for microalgae cultivation outdoor, or it is in laboratory scale? So
Right.
supposed to be Professor Shaw, or might be Dr. Chu also can share.
Yes.
The same question.
Yeah, maybe let me answer first, and I think Dr. Chu can add on later on. All right. So thank you for the questions. Yeah. Actually, what we are doing in our lab, our team right now, actually we're just doing an AI system in the lab scale with very small scale. We are still not in the level of in the outdoor, which is cultivation outdoor. So we have a project, industry project, right after we finish this lab skill. So definitely we upskill in the outdoor. So I think now we are still doing indoor first, right? So once we finish, we have a prototype already, and we upskill in the outdoor. So this is the planning for our industry project. Right, thank you. So maybe Dr. Chu, anything you want to add on? Dr. Chu is part of this project, by the way. Yeah, he's represent from Xiamen University, Malaysia. So he's my good collaborator. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Professor Shaw. Okay. Yeah. Again, Dr. Chu, might be you have another example.
I think
Same
if I
question.
can add on this, yes, as Prof. Chu mentioned, we are doing it in a small scale. We have successfully tested like how the IoT can measure the temperature, can measure what is the flow rate, right? Then this IoT can see what is the color to let us know when it is ready. Right? So the good thing is we don't need to put someone there to monitor. We can have a camera to observe it. But again, this is just the small scale, but I think small and large is about the same. It's just how we want to implement the system. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Ibu Rahmania, do you want to ask another question or directly?
Thank you very much, Dr. Heli.
Nice
Finally,
to
we
have
meet
you
here
here.
again. Okay, nice to meet you also, Professor Shaw and Dr. Wayne. Yeah, actually, artificial intelligence becomes very interesting now also in Indonesia. I think you also know about that. But I think it's not such an easy thing to apply the AI system for Indonesia condition. Sorry. As I understand that, actually to develop an AI system, we need to put or to give the machine maybe thousands of data. So it's like a big data, right? Yeah. And I think, I don't know what do you think? If we have no sufficient amount of data, because normally if we cultivate algae in laboratory scale, it's only about maybe 2 months, 3 months, and then we will have no enough data to support the AI system. What do you think if we combine the laboratory data with secondary resources like from journals or other, but with the same species, an example? What do you think? Thank you.
Right, thank you for the questions. Yes, I think it's possible. Yeah, just as you suggested that you get the primary data from your lab. Okay, then the secondary data you can get from the journal, whatever resources that you get. I think it's possible. Yeah, this is depends how you want to make it. Yeah, in fact, what we can do is we can have more collaborations in the future, so we can combine some of the data because we are also looking at data for information. This is same thing happened to us because we are new to us. Yeah, this IoT, this industry 4.0 is new to us. We are just switch our mindset to this industry during this pandemic. Yeah, because we cannot go to lab, so we have to find alternatives to solve this problem. So I think it's new to us. Definitely we are still learning for information. So a lot of things for us to learn. So definitely I think from Indonesia, from Malaysia, hopefully we can have something work together, especially in this area, so that we have more things we can work together. All right, so thank you. Maybe Dr. Chi want to add on something?
Yeah, thanks, Prof. Yeah, I agree with Prof. Show. So this AI, because sometimes it's also subjective, right, to our own system. So if you have your own system, then if you have more replication, then I think you can actually collect the good amount of data as well. But if we can co-implement the same system so that we can monitor maybe in Indonesia one system, in Malaysia one more system, then yeah, we can see in different region what is the results. Yeah. We definitely look forward to that.
Okay, thank you. But maybe based on your experience, did you develop algorithm, an example for each parameter? An example, we would like to monitor the optical density or the temperature and other parameters. Did you make every parameter its own algorithm, or how to manage that?
Okay, so far we are, because the optical density we usually measure using UVVs, but that's too much troublesome. So we're translating to the color change. So what OD is what color, then when they detect the color, they know what is the OD. But we are keeping all the other factors the same. I think what you're mentioning is like change in light, change in carbon dioxide, right?
Yeah.
But we haven't gone into that yet. We are doing the color algorithm, color and OD.
So you have a special algorithm for an example, the color.
Yes, we actually, the AI system can help to develop this model with sufficient features, right? It will develop a model to translate color to OD and vice versa.
Okay. Okay. So you just started with the color and OD, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rahmania.
Thank you, Dr. Heli. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rahmania, for for the questions. Okay. Another questions come from Anissa. Okay, Anissa, do you want to ask directly to the speakers? Or yeah, okay. Oh, let me read the question from Anissa, since she couldn't directly ask the questions. Okay. Okay. I would like to ask, is it possible to merge smart city and green city together so we are able to receive advantages such as safety and convenience from smart city and yet able to combat the climate change and ensure the sustainability?
I think the question for Anissa is very interesting. This is something that we are looking forward to, right? Because recently it's either smart city or green city, right? To incorporate both, we need to understand what is the compromise both city can bring and how we can combine them. But so far, I'm working more towards the green city, right? But still implementing some small portion of the IoT inside. So I think, yes, we can implement, but we need to have more experts from both sides to see how we can generate the final output. Does Prof want to share anything regarding cities?
Yes, actually, this is Dr. Chiu expertise, yeah, because Dr. Chiu want to adventure in this smart city as well as green city. I think it's good idea, yeah, because a lot of now city, right, they're slowly venture into this smart and green city. I think it's possible. Yeah, just a matter of time. Yeah, maybe not now, not happening now. Maybe not happen in 5 years time. Maybe happen in 10 years time. So definitely this will happen. That's why we need to get ready, prepare for it now. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof.
Okay. Very nice idea, because one thing that interests is being shared with idea, problem, and answer might be can change the world. That's Dr. Chiu say. And Professor Shaw will say that, yeah, knowledge is will be meaningless except you share your ideas. So this is the important thing that all of you should put concern about this. Ideas should be shared, and then just because this idea might also inspire the other, and then starting to develop become the reality. So okay, any other questions? Okay, from other participants. Oh, let me check the chat box. I don't know exactly. This is okay. It's come up from the which one is more reliable for application, supervised ML or unsupervised ML? I don't know exactly. This is the questions. What ML is? I see. Okay. Which is more reliable for application, supervised machine learning or unsupervised machine learning?
Oh, this too is dependent on the process, right? Some process needs to be supervised if they are more detailed. Then the unsupervised is if you know how the process will run, so you just let it run by itself. Again, it's dependent on your process, which one you want to implement inside. But ours, I think, is supervised because we will keep on monitoring since we're still new to this system.
Definitely, that supervised must be more proper than unsupervised for these cases. Okay, can I have one question?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, actually, the idea of IoT that Professor Shaw mentioned, and also the idea to develop algae in the green city is really cost related. What the question, what I'm wondering to know is, when we apply, and of course a few countries has already started to implement this idea, and then how we challenge with the region that has limited sunlight, or in some season we believe that this source of sunlight that is important for algae will be limited. So how to challenge this situation and the situations?
Okay, maybe let me answer first, then Dr. Chiu will add in. All right, so I believe Dr. Hila, you're mentioning about some country there's 4 seasons, right? Yeah,
Yes.
because some of the country like they have limited sunlight, so that it's difficult for them to apply this cultivation of microalgae. But I believe, right, I believe nowadays, as example, Japan. Actually, Japan, they're also facing this problem because Japan have 4 seasons. That's why, but for information, Japan, the microalgae cultivation is very, very advanced, yeah, compared to some of the country. We have no 4 seasons due to, I think they have done some genetic modification, and they have done some this advanced study, so they can maximize the output. Okay, compared to what we are now still doing the natural strand, which is we just depend on the sunlight. I think this is something other advanced country already done it, yeah, compared to us, we are just starting. But anyhow, this is the advantage from our country, like Indonesia or Malaysia side, because I think we have the sunlight drop and free of charge throughout the year. I think this is something that we can tap into this, yeah. And also for this IoT things, I believe some of the country they are start to develop, yeah. Example, they can set the timing for sunlight, for this artificial light. they can set a timing for this. But I believe in Malaysia, we do need that because we can see we have at least 8 hours sunlight. Yeah, compared to other country, they have limited maybe 4 hours sunlight. So this is some advantage for us. Yeah, but of course we can adjust accordingly because IoT, as I mentioned, is a smart system. So we can adjust it accordingly. We can train the system how it works. So when what we want and the system can develop for us. Yeah, I think that's all for me. Maybe Dr. Chu want to add on something?
Thanks, Prof, for the insightful comment. Yeah, I think I agree with Prof, right? So if we want, then actually there's also the closed system, which is the photobioreactor. Then maybe when there is sunlight, you can absorb the energy first, then save it for later. Then we can create our synthetic light for seasons that are more darker. Then for seasons that are more light, you get to conserve the energy.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, any other questions? Okay, this is end of our session, and also thank you for a very nice and inspire presentation, and also thank you for a very fruitful discussion today. Okay, again, thank you, Professor Shaw and Dr. Chu. And let me please give the appreciation by showing you this certificate.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. This is kindly symbolic, but this is our deeply appreciated to you all, because all of you has kindly share all your fruitful idea, and supposed to be this idea will develop another result in, especially in our study program. Again, thank you for your presentation, and let's have the second session for this.
Thank you so much for the certificate. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, now let's come to the second part of this guest lecture. Still, we have two speakers for this session, and let me first introduce the speaker to you all. Okay. Okay. The first speaker is Dr. Apura Kristakoyandi. Okay, just wait a minute. Okay. He belongs to the Department of Chemical and Environmental Engineering, University of Nottingham, Malaysia. And this is few of his recent honor, awards, and also achievement. He got IKM Research Prize in Polymer and Material Science. This is recently, 2021. And he got also the selected one as the most cited article in the past 3 years. And then now he is also the Vice Chancellor. He got also the Vice Chancellor Medal 2020. So this is very sophisticated achievement from Professor Shaw team related to microalgae and algae research. Okay, and then the second speaker is Dr. Kwan Seong Koo. He is also from Department of Chemical and Environmental Engineering, University of Nottingham, Malaysia. And again, he is this is the few achievement of Dr. Koo. First runner-up in green product, green technology, biotechnology in the 7th International Biotechnology Competition and Exhibition. This is also he got recently in 2021, and he got also University Postgraduate Award Prize in 2020 and also 2021, and top 15 finalists of the YSN ASM Chrysalis Award 2021, and last but not least, Best Presenter Award in POSET 2019. And let's come to the presentation session, and let me invite Dr. Aprat to have his first presentation in the second session of this guest lecture. Dr. Aprat, stage on yours. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Ellie.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, nice to have you again here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Now I can
Yeah.
see you and also hear you clearly.
All right. Okay. All right. Let me share my screen now. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, it's already
Okay.
show here.
All right. Okay then. Yeah. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Apurav, and today I'm going to talk about how we can monitor the cultivation of microalgae by AI. And I think just now, Professor Sho and Dr. Kitwen also mentioned about it, and they briefly discussed on how our research group is slowly going towards managing and trying to simplify the cultivation by AI. So, what is algae? We all know algae is a photosynthetic plant. It needs carbon dioxide, sunlight, nutrients, and water. And it can range from unicellular to multicellular organisms and have size of around 0.5 micrometers to 100 meters. How do we cultivate algae? There are two major ways of cultivation of algae. One is by open system, and the second is by closed system. When I say open system, that means the cultivation is done exposed to atmosphere, wherein you use the sunlight that we have on day-to-day life, and then you utilize normal water and give some nutrients. The main advantage of using open system is it's cheap because you don't need more resources. It's easier to run as well. But because it is open, it is prone to contamination. So a lot of times open systems do not have a proper, there is a fluctuation of readings that you get on a day-to-day basis. Then there comes closed systems. Closed systems are usually photobioreactors. They can either be plate type. Systems are usually expensive. Although they are easier to control, we can control the parameters, we can control the output, but they are expensive. So how can we cultivate the algae sustainably? For that to happen, we need the source of nutrients to be cheap. That can come from either sewage or industrial wastewater. We can also use the carbon dioxide that can be sourced from industrial flue gas chimney. And for light, we can use sunlight instead of spending more money on the lighting equipment. So for this presentation, I'm going to describe about a study that was done in our group, wherein we tried to utilize some industrial waste to cultivate microalgae, and later on how we monitored its growth and tried to potentially optimize and find a suitable concentration of this industrial waste. The industrial waste that was used here was dairy waste powder. This dairy waste powder was actually given to our group from a local dairy supplier who was having a hard time to dispose it off, because these dairy waste powders are quite fine, and the biggest risk that they have is when it comes in touch with hot temperature, they try to, they try to burn. So that's the reason these dairy waste powder have to be disposed of in a good manner. So we try to cultivate our microalgae, that is Chlorella vulgaris, with these dairy waste powders, and we incorporated them in few proportions. And we were provided with different types of dairy waste powders, such as cheese waste, milk waste, biscuit waste, and cow feed waste. So we tried to test out what happens when we incorporate these powders with the inorganic medium that we have, that is BG11, and try to see whether these promote any growth in the microalgae or not. We also try to characterize these powders. So the process flow for this preliminary study was, we obtained the waste from the dairy nearby us. We tried to incorporate 20% of each dairy waste powder. We tried to cultivate our microalgae, and then finally find out the biochemical composition, that is how much biomass productivity we got, the lipid content, the proteins content, and the carbohydrate content in each of them. The parameters of cultivation for this study were that we used BG11 culture medium, and in each bottle, that is each 1 liter bottle that was used in this photobioreactor, 200 ml of the deionized water contained 2 grams of dairy waste. That means the remaining 800 was topped up with the normal water, and just 2 grams of dairy waste was in each liter of the culture. And the cultivation took place for around 14 days, and we tested out the parameters and tried to see whether these dairy waste powders promoted the growth of microalgae. To analyze the dairy waste powder, we tried to use FTIR and EDX. So let me explain this in a better way. Yeah. So during the FTIR analysis, we found that with biscuit waste powder, there were some carbon and nitrogen bonds. With cheese waste powder, we found that there were ammonia bonds as well as the carbon and hydrogen normal bonds. With cow feed dairy waste powder, we found we had ammonia as well as carbon and oxygen bonds as well. And same with the milk waste powder. When we conducted the EDX analysis of these dairy waste powders, we found that most of the dairy waste consisted of carbon and nitrogen, as you can see from this table, and oxygen as well. Some had sulfur in a very high content. That was the cheese waste. When this experiment was run, we tried to monitor the biomass productivity of each dairy waste and plot in a graph wherein we could study whether there is any improvement in the cultivation parameters. And at the end of 14 days, we noticed that around at for dairy waste biscuit, that is DWB, and for dairy waste feed, cow feed, that is DWF. The highest biomass growth or productivity was found with DWB, that is dairy waste biscuit. And the growth rate of dairy waste biscuit was 3.32 grams per liter at the end of, the biomass was at the end of 3.32 grams per liter. And for the other parameters that we were trying out, for cow feed, we got 1.9 grams per liter. For milk, we got 1.27 grams per liter. And for cheese waste, we got 1.49 grams per liter. And compared to the inorganic medium, we found that it was at the lowest of 1.22 grams per liter. The dry cell content of these, the biomass that we got, were listed down in this table. And you can see for the highest dry cell weight content of microalgae was noticed at dairy waste biscuit, and the highest biomass productivity was also listed under dairy waste biscuit. When we did comparison of this study with the different biomass productivity from different sources, we found that when dairy biscuit waste was incorporated with BG11 medium, it resulted in quite high biomass productivity compared to food waste compost and industrial waste and palm oil meal effluent, as well as organic fertilizer. Furthermore, we also tried to study the nitrate removal efficiency and the phosphate removal efficiency, because we wanted to know whether the microalgae was consuming the nitrate and the phosphate that were there inside our nutrient medium. And similar to the previous results, we noticed that for dairy biscuit waste, the highest amount of nitrate was consumed at the end, and it resulted in the lowest concentration of nitrate in the solution. Although the inorganic medium, that is BG11, has very high nitrate content, but the reduction rate was only 59%, compared to the dairy waste biscuit, where the reduction rate of nitrates were 74% from the start. Similarly, when we tried to check the phosphorus removal efficiency, it was noted that dairy waste cheese had the highest removal at 36%, and BG11 had a very high phosphorus concentration, but the removal rate was very low. As you can see from this figure, although the phosphorus content in BG11 is very high, but at the end of the cultivation cycle at day 12, the reduction is very low compared with the dairy cheese, as well as the milk waste, the biscuit waste, and the cow feed waste. We also tried to study the biochemical composition of this cultivated microalgae, and it was noticed that the lipid content, the protein content, and carbohydrate content were comparatively higher with the dairy waste biscuit system compared to the dairy waste cheese, which also had high amount of lipids, although the carbohydrate content was lesser than the dairy waste biscuit. And the lowest amount was surprisingly seen with the inorganic medium, that is BG11. So the conclusion of this preliminary study was incorporating these dairy waste powders with BG11 actually improves the biomass productivity, the lipid, the protein, and the carbohydrate content of microalgae. And the resulting biomass productivity that we got was 146 milligrams per liter per day, lipid content of 238 milligram per gram, proteins of 227 milligram per gram, and carbohydrate content of 314 milligram per gram. The integration of the organic medium, that is the biscuit waste, does contribute very massively to the enhancement of biomass production by 44%, and the lipid and proteins and carbohydrate content increased by 44, 11, and 20% comparatively. Therefore, the further study was done to figure out whether vision imaging can be used for biomass growth monitoring. This study was a continuation of the previous preliminary study that was done, wherein this time biscuit dairy waste, to figure out whether we can increase the biomass productivity and also see what is the biochemical composition of the cultivated microalgae. If you want to know more about this paper, more about this experiment, you can read our paper, which is online in Bioresearch Technology. And so the setup of the experiment was similar to the previous one, but this time around we focused on industrial biscuit waste powder as our organic source. And we tried to use various percentages of this industrial biscuit waste mixture instead of just using the inorganic medium. The setup that was done to check the vision imaging of this system is very close to UV-vis spectrophotometer. So how UV-vis works is you have a light source that reflects the light and it goes through a reference and then through the sample, and then it is detected at the end. For our system, we utilized a similar approach wherein we had a black box and we collected all our readings in a we collected all of these, and so we captured images and feed it into the AI so that it can learn at what concentration of the biomass culture, what is the reading. The preparation of industrial biscuit waste powder was done similarly to the previous study. So we took a conical flask of 250 ml and 2 grams of industrial biscuit waste powder was combined with 200 milliliters of ionized water. To prepare different concentrations of this biscuit waste powder, we mix this with 100 ml, followed by 200 ml, followed by 400 ml, and followed by 600 ml. So we got different concentrations starting from 10B, B represents biscuit, until 60B. The image processing was done by Microsoft Visual Studio, and we tried to develop a Windows Forms app which used the .NET framework and the C programming language. The user interface was also written in XAML, and controls such as button, label, image, folder were defined in the program. As you can see, we tried to capture many images, and these are in day 5, and then how it progressed until day 10. And these images were fed into our system, that was our coding system that was built. At the end of the experiment, the coding system actually gave us linear regression data from wherein we could compare RGB, that is red, green, and blue system. We used CMYK, that is cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, or black. We used HSL, that is hue, saturation, and lighting. So 3 systems were utilized to figure out which color combinations gives us the best and closest value possible. And linear regression plots were plotted to see what was the R-square value and how close were our readings to actual live readings. So when we looked at the RGB regression data, you can see that more of the R-square values are very close to 1. Yeah, either 0. They range from around 0.8483 until 0.98. Compared to CMYK, the results were quite lesser compared to the previous RGB system. And you can see that they tend to deviate a lot from the regression straight linear curve. And for HSL system, the R-square values were even lower. So according to this data that we got, we concluded that RGB color system was perfect to quantify, and they were very close to the values that we were getting from UVs. Similar to the previous experiment, we also tried to measure and test out our biomass productivity. And it was found that the maximum concentration of biomass was for 40% of biscuit solution, that is 40B. And the resultant value was 4.11 grams per liter. This was followed by 20B and control run 100C, that is inorganic medium, 10B and 60B. And according to this figure, it can be seen that 100C, that is the control, just takes 10 days to enter the stationary growth phase, while it is still later on rising. The dry cell weight content was also examined for this system, and it was seen that with 40B setup, the dry cell weight content, the specific growth rate, and the biomass productivity were high as well. And compared to the previous study, this gave a higher value. The nitrate removal efficiency of this system was also tested out, and it can be seen that 40B again had the highest removal rate of 58% compared to the other systems, that is control 20B, 40B, 10B, and 60B. And despite the high initial nitrate content of the 100C or the inorganic medium, the microalgae development is slower than in the mixture of the mediums. The phosphorus removal was also tested out, and it can be seen again that 40B had the highest amount of phosphorus, but at the end of the culture, it had the lowest amount of phosphorus content. That means the removal rate of phosphorus was very high for 40B system. The biochemical composition of the chlorella at the end of the culture were also tested out. And once again, it was seen that 40B system had the highest amount of lipid, protein, and carbohydrate, which validates our result that it consumed the highest amount of nitrogen and phosphorus. So the conclusion of this experiment was that the 40B in combination gave the highest yield of biomass, that was 4.08 grams per liter, lipid content of 260 milligrams per gram, proteins of 263 milligrams per gram, and carbohydrates of 418 milligrams per gram, compared to all the other system as well as the control. The second conclusion that can be drawn is exploitation of this color acquisition on Chlorella vulgaris growth phases, and its photo to biomass concentration estimation was performed in this study. And 3 different color models that were utilized were RGB, CMYK, and HSL. And it was discovered that RGB model could read and interpret the color variance more accurately, more precisely compared to the other systems. Therefore, this digital processing unit using RGB color model can be explored in further to automate and to automate the microalgae growth monitoring. And it is a very accessible method to find out whether your microalgae culture is ready to harvest or not. Yeah, that's all from my side for today. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Heli, for inviting me as well.
Thank you also, Dr. Abra, for sharing your result in this lecture. And now let me introduce first Dr. Jerry to have his presentation. Very welcome, Dr. Jerry. Happy to see you again here.
Hello, Dr. Heli.
Okay, let's move to Dr. Jerry's presentation. Dr. Jerry, please stage on yours.
Let me see if I can share the sound.
Yeah, it's ready. Oh.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
Not yet, still progressing like this. Yeah, now I can see your slide.
Okay, so again, good afternoon, and thank you once again, Dr. Heli and universities Indonesia, for your very kind invitation for this guest lecture today. I will be sharing about same thing, microalgae, and how it works on the extraction part. But this time I will be presenting on how do we implement smart farming and also Internet of Things into the microalgae biorefinery. All right. So a little bit background of studies. I believe that 3 of the speakers earlier also mentioned about microalgae over and over. Microalgae is the 3rd generation biomass that are rich in protein, carbohydrates, and lipids, carotenoids, and so forth. All right. What makes them so special is because they have the ability to become the biomass feedstock to replace most of the algae-based bioproduct in various sectors. And also, Dr. Kitlin also mentioned about that microalgae can be grown in wastewater, and similarly, it can be used to treat wastewater, right? And what makes them so special is because they are the future energy, or we call it the algae cities, the future algae cities using microalgae, because they can generate bioproducts at the same time they can generate bioenergy. Similarly, they are renewable sources in order to replace the conventional crops and also the fossil fuel. All right. So one thing about microalgae biorefinery is that it requires multiple steps such as cultivation, centrifugation, drying, pre-treatment, extraction, and also purification. And lastly, we can get the product itself. That is not that feasible because we are moving towards the 21st century of research. That is why we need to implement technologies such as IoT, integrated system, algae powers system into the microalgae biorefineries. For example, in this case, we are implementing this integrated assisted technologies into the microalgae biorefinery process. Okay, like in this case, this is the LBF system as introduced by Prof. Show about the how it extract into 2-phase, and then where's the target component go to and how does it purify. Okay, so the assisted technologies, right, are like ultrasound, microwave, electricity that can help to minimize all these steps into one step. So you can, in the microalgae refinery, everything here, this 5 steps is shortened now into simple as 3 steps, which is extraction, purification, and valuable added product. Okay, so this also reduces the cost of the additional step. All right. As mentioned, this is the liquid biphasic system. How does it work? It's that it has the bubble. The bubble eventually will capture the bioactive compound or bioproducts from the microalgae. And what's attached or absorbed on the surface of the bubble, it's all the bioactive compounds. And then it will rise to the top of the system. So this is the C-phycocyanin. Is one of the protein complexes in the Spirulina petacis microalgae. Okay, it looks blue, but originally the microalgae is green. Interesting, inside the component it's blue. All right, and the salt phase usually is used to purify the C-phycocyanin. All right, and some of the published work that our research group had is we have tried using the ionic liquid based ATPS system. We also tried using the LBF system. All right. Moving on is that now is the smart farming thing. So I believe most of the questions also for how are we going to put IoT system? How are we going to put AI into the microalgae biorefinery? All right, so simple as we have a photobioreactor system and we have an extraction system tank. But what we want to put into the system is the sensors itself. As you can see, this is how we put sensors into the system. For example, how we control the sensors in the system. That is why we have this Arduino board. This Arduino board, it will send or predict the system or condition inside the microalgae photobioreactor itself, along with all these sensors such as ultrasound. The ultrasound is used to control the volume of the photobioreactor. For example, if the volume is filled up here, right, the ultrasound can actually radiate the radiation to detect how much the capacity of the photobioreactor. Similarly, we have pH sensor, we have temperature sensors, all right? And also, in order for us, right, to implement this IoT insight, we need to have an app to monitor, to see what is actually going on. That's why we have implemented this app. This is called the Blink app, to control and monitor the process parameter inside this cultivation photobioreactor and also the extraction tank. Okay, and that is where we're going to see this app is from our smartphone, our laptops, and we just need to download the app. Simple as that. We can monitor it. Okay, later I will show you a video on what is the startup we have found in our research group. Okay, so this is like some of the apps. This is the Blink app. You see, this is the temperature, the flow rate, and this is the volume flow of the system itself. All right, that is why we call it real-time monitoring. And of course, if we want to put AI into the technology, yes, we can also upload the big data into cloud. And then that is how we allow the Arduino board, right, to start what we call machine learning, so that the system will start to learn and collect data and to predict the data for the microalgae cultivation. For example, if the temperature change or sometimes the season is not right, the system itself will automatically control the system itself. For example, if the UV from the sunlight is very high, then if it can detect, and then it will stop the UV. It will let the UV give the light first, and then once it's sufficient light, it will stop your cut. So that is how the machine learning comes into play, where we have big data. All right. Okay, so this is like the overview system of the integrated, or we call it the IoT system, along with the continuous cultivation and extraction. So what do we mean by IoT-based continuous cultivation and extraction? This is the IoT, where we connect all the data, all the sensors, and we upload it into a cloud system. So that the cloud system is where we store our big data. We don't have to worry that the cloud has limited data, but because internet has a very big amount of data that we can store. And then this is all the sensors. That is why we call it IoT connected with the sensors. Continuous cultivation is that we cultivate the microalgae. Similarly, we do the extraction, continuous cultivation and extraction. And this is how we play. We mentioned about IoT continuous cultivation and extraction. Okay, in layman term, for example, if this microalgae cultivation in the photobioreactor, it reached a maturation stage, maybe this thing will transfer 20% of the mature biomass into the extraction tank. So the extraction tank will perform the extraction. However, in this 20% missing, it will be filled up by a fresh culture medium. So this allows the microalgae to grow again. And here we'll perform the extraction. So it's like a continuous cycle on and on and on. But what we need to do, of course, is to monitor the overall system. But in this case, we have sensors, we have IoT. We don't need manpower in order to control or predict the system. The IoT system will automatically predict everything. What we need to do is to know what is actually going on using the app itself. Of course, we need technical services, maintenance later on, all right? This is the overall design. So the expected cost is quite low because this is a laboratory scale, as Prof. Shio mentioned. We did not go for the large scale, but of course, in the future, we will implement into the large scale system. However, in this case, this is a 20-liter system. This is a 10-liter system, and this is the peristaltic pump, where it will take up maybe 20%, 30% of the mature algae, and then it will put into the LBF system. This is the extraction tank, and that is where it carry out the extraction. All right. So this is one of the setup we had in our University of Nottingham lab, and this is how it looks like. All right. Okay. So what we meant by predicting or to see whether the sensor works or not. So this one is we compare the water level. This is using the ultrasound. We want to know what is the volume of the photobioreactor system or the extraction tank. So when we fill up it will look like this. Okay. So this is a sensor one. This is a manual. Manual is we look it manually, but the sensors can predict similarly more or less compare with the manual one. Okay, so this is how we believe the sensors is intelligent with the setting or program in the Arduino board. Okay, so this is a sensor output. Same goes to the extraction tank. Okay, so when we talk about the temperature, this is the system we control manually and also using the sensors. This is in the cultivation tank and this is in the extraction tank. Okay, and this is the pH as mentioned. We have a lot of parameters we can play with, not just pH, temperature. We can also control the biomass concentration. We can also do a lot of things inside. We can stress the microalgae cultivation. So there are lots of parameters that we can play, just depending on what are the resources available for us there. All right. Okay, so let me show you a very quick video of the setup. So this is the photobioreactor tank made of acrylic plastic and the sensors. And this is the extraction tank made of glass. We have multiple valves for to release product later on. Some of the programming we set in the Arduino board so that we can control the temperature, sensors, pH, all stuff. Simple as putting sensors into it, and also we can control it using the phone. So that is the Arduino board, and this is how we test the peristaltic pump. Just turn it on using our phone, it will automatically pump from the tank itself. Simple as that. Okay, so that is a very short video. In terms of IoT and its contribution towards the sustainability, economic and environmental, of course, towards social microalgae production, we know that it's a renewable energy. Somehow it contributes the emission or mitigation of the greenhouse gases. In this case, is carbon dioxide. Of course, when we talk about IoT, we have lots of engineers, we have lots of IT people that can build up these technologies. When we talk about economics, it reduces the multiple step processing compared to the conventional biorefinery. It reduces the cost, labor cost, and also has a high production productivity. Okay, so when we talk about environment, same thing, water produced from the water tank is not harm to the environment because it's just used for the cultivation medium. And of course, we can also recycle the cultivation medium for the next subsequent treatment. And the chemical used in the extraction tank, or we call it the LBF system, is all the organic greener solvent. All right, improve in resource efficiency, and of course, reduce the waste in the process. Okay, so when we talk about ways to improve the IoT system, as mentioned by Dr. Apurav, he has also shown us the RBG, red, blue, green, predict the AI forecasting. This is a system that we can forecast whether our microalgae produce different type of carotenoids or bioactive products. So similarly, this is one of the technology we are playing with the AI, not just on the bioproduct. At the same time, we can use this technology to predict the biomass concentration. When is this going to reach? When's the microalgae biomass is going to reach mature? At which day? At which concentration? So that is how we predict it. And what is the algorithm? The conventional algorithm is the KNN, K nearest neighbor algorithm. There are plenty more algorithms that it can be implemented into the AI system. Okay, so in terms of conceptualization, as mentioned by Prof, recently we are doing the preliminary studies. So we just test up in the small scale, the 10 liter and the 5 liter cultivation and extraction tank. But of course, we are collaborating with external into a pilot system, and then of course the indoor pond system. And this is where we commercialize the spirulina microalgae farm. All right. So this is the overall system, the layout of the system on how we want to implement the system into it. Okay, so this is like the extraction tank, this is the cultivation tank, and maybe we can put the LED here to control the lights, temperatures, and pH later on. All right. So in terms of spirulina application, of course, we need to have the right formulation that is more towards the application side. For example, we can implement nanotechnology in order to nano formulate this CPC nano capsule, and then for an efficient drug delivery, because most of the market now, they are using spirulina biomass, or we call it spirulina microalgae, and they just compress it into a pellet form. But what we really want is the bioactive compound, or in this case, it's called C-phycocyanin, but we make it into a nano size, and then we capture it using this mixed biopolymer formulation using protein and polysaccharide, because this is one of the best drug delivery system or formulation for an effective drug delivery concept. Okay. With that said, I would like to end my presentation. Again, thank you very much. I love to end my presentation with a quote, which is, research is to see what everybody has seen and to think nobody else has thought. Because knowing something do not give you the power, but to believe gives you the power. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chair, for the presentation, also for very nice closing quote today. Okay, now let's come to the discussion session for the speakers in the second session of this guest lecture. Okay, first questions come from Dr. Rahmania, and okay, which sensor is suitable for biomass production measurement? This is the first question, and then the second question is it possible to connect spectrophotometer to your IoT system? Okay, this is okay. Let's.
I think I will let Jerry handle it first. Yeah, because I think he's more expert in IoT system than me.
Okay. Because now UV vis is, as mentioned by Dr. Chiu, is one of the most easiest and reliable method to use in the system. And they have also implemented UV spectrometer to detect the the concentration of the biomass. Maybe I can share some of the setup. Okay, so based on this photobioreactor, as you can see, beside we have this so-called photodiodes. Can you see my screen? Yes.
Yes.
So these photodiodes, they function as the biomass concentration, to measure the biomass concentration. Similarly, it can measure the concentration of bioactive compound. Bioactive compound in terms of like astaxanthin, lutein, C-phycocyanin, types of colors compound it can measure. So it has a range of ultraviolet, similarly like the UV spectrometer function.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the answer. Ibu Rahmania, is there any following up questions related on it?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's a sufficient answer. Thank you, Dr. Ko. Thank you, Bu Heli.
You're welcome, Ibu Dr. Rahmania. Okay, okay, another questions come from the chat boxes. Okay. I guess this is for Dr. Afra, but still Dr. Ko also can give an answer on it. Okay, considering that CMYK and RGB are basically complement each other, why does RGB performance found better than CMYK? This is first questions, and then the second question is what kind of programming language is recommended for beginner in using machine learning?
Can you repeat the second question again? I couldn't understand.
What programming language is recommended for beginner in using machine learning?
Oh, I think I will like to answer the second one first. So for programming language, I would say the one we used was for a beginner as well, because this one was conducted by one of my colleagues here, and she, like us, is also a chemical engineer, has no idea about programming or any coding. So it's considered like for a beginner as well. So I would say this would be a very ideal experiment for any beginner if you want to conduct. And if you want to go through what we did in this experiment, you can check the paper if you want. I can put the link here. Then later on you can check, because we have given all the coding information there as well. So if you want, you can go through it and you can check yourself as well. And what was the first question again?
Okay, the first question is about CMYK. Okay, let me repeat for you. Okay, considering that CMYK and RGB are basically complement each other, why does RGB performance found better than CMYK?
I would say I'm not an expert in color systems, but I would say RGB is basically the primary colors. So I think it was easier for the system to detect our microalgae cultivation compared to CMYK system, wherein these are secondary colors, because RGB, red, green, and blue are the main component of all the colors that are there in the world. So I would say, I think it's mostly to do with the classification or the hierarchy of these colors. But I don't have any more information about it.
Maybe I can add on is that the reason why we use red, green, blue is because we have red algae, we have blue algae, and also we have green algae.
Okay. So this IoT system can easily to detect all of this algae strain. I mean, we have many strain of algae with many different color when it grow. Okay, there's a green algae and then blue and then red algae, and this IoT system especially can easily to detect this color, isn't it? Okay, and then the interesting thing that some studies say that cultivation has been claimed to contribute almost 20 to 30% of the cost production for algae. So that is why this idea is really wonderful and awesome. I guess. Yeah, so integrated IoT and to make cultivation for algae become easier and can be controlled well. Even in the remote, even in the remote position. So now, what I was wondering is first, when Dr. Aparat did analysis for the dairy product waste, you found that some of the major nutrients like carbon and also oxygen found really high, and also at the end of the biochemical composition analysis for the product or for the yield of the product of this algae is found carbohydrate always found very high compared to the others. Do you think there is any specification for this pathway? So still we found the carbohydrate yield higher than other biochemicals accumulation.
Yeah, it's actually interesting to note that this species that we cultivated is a protein dominant species. Vulgaris. It's very rare that you will see that the carbohydrate content is higher than protein and lipid combined. So I would say to know the pathways of this experiment would be very interesting route to understand, like how any species which is protein dominant ends up having a lot of carbohydrate, because the analysis that was done was on the dairy waste powders in the initial stage, where we wanted to know what's actually inside these powders. So these powders were given to our group and they were unlabeled. We were only told that, okay, this powder is from this factory and is sourced from this waste. So apart from that, we don't have any other knowledge. That's the reason we wanted to test out and try out what's inside the powders. And yeah, as you mentioned, knowing the pathway of this production of how the microalgae actually was able to secrete so much carbohydrate compared to other resources it's one of the future scope that can be tried out.
I see. Because you found that supplementation, the medium with the organic nutrient is like a significantly increase the yield of this algae. So it means that indicating that organic compound much more easily to digest to become the nutrient for algae. Okay.
Yes.
Still wondering to know how IoT can easily to detect this biochemical composition. Might be pigments, still can be easily to imagine, but how biochemical, especially for primer metabolite, can easily to detect this.
For at least proteins that I know of, it's possible because most of the protein initial quantification is done by analysis of colors. So you do Bradford reagent and then you test out the color difference. So that's how you get the protein concentration. But to test out lipid and carbohydrate is a bit more challenging. Carbohydrate is still possible because you have phenol sulfuric acid composition analysis by which you can still detect the color change. But the lipid analysis is a bit tough. So for us, the next step that we are trying to develop is trying to find out solution to how we can analyze these primary compounds in microalgae and see whether it's possible or not. Because if that can be done, then any farmer who has a phone which has a basic camera can actually test out the composition of his microalgae. He doesn't need to go through lab and don't have to spend so much money in testing out the samples.
I see. Let me postpone my questions and then I will give the opportunity for Dr. Rahmania. I guess she was raised her hand. Might be for further questions. Okay, Ibu Rahmania. Okay, or I found Dr. Chu also want to add on something, or
Nothing. Yeah, I think they explained very well.
I see. Okay. Okay. Still, I was wondering with the IoT itself. This IoT. Could you both share us how this IoT inform us about the best time for harvesting this each of the metabolite? I mean, when we want to get a very high very good yield for lipid accumulation, then how we can easily to know the best time to harvest this algae?
There are still few parameters how you know that the algae is ready for harvest. One is the color, of course. There will be a time where the color just doesn't get more and more darker, But for our eyes, we cannot see at the end of the culture whether it's getting more or more darker. So that's the reason we need the UV-Vis. And this colors system that we have tried to develop also tries to detect minute changes. So at the end of day 13, day 14, we understand whether there is further color difference or no. But for testing out the biochemical composition, you will have to do secondary analysis as well. So for example, we have to test out what are the measurements every day. Let's say from day 6, 7 onwards, we test out the proteins, the lipids, and the carbohydrates. And if it is possible through the IoT system or the AI system, by just capturing a photo of color change, if we can understand whether there is enough or there is high amount of lipid or carbohydrate inside the system, then that's the most ideal route. But until now, what we could think of how we can do that is still limited to proteins and carbohydrates. Test out the lipid content of any microalgae is still very tough from just imaging system.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Before I forget, let me check the chat box. There is one question, if I'm not mistaken, from Dr. Samuel. Okay, let me read it for both of you. Okay, Dr. Samuel asked to you all how we can remove heavy metal in our microalgae cultivation. Okay.
Is this my question?
Yes, feel free
Okay,
to.
Okay, so in terms of heavy metal removal from wastewater using microalgae cultivation, we can say that the wastewater itself, it contains bacteria, and this bacteria, when we combine it with microalgae, it will have a symbiosis interaction. Then this interaction itself, it will help to enhance the microalgae capability. At the same time, this goes to the bacteria as well. So this bacteria and the microalgae, it will eventually consume the heavy metal. It's not the very high concentration heavy metal, like for example, pomade or palm oil milk, even those we need to dilute them. Of course, if we have a very high concentration, the microalgae cannot withstand that concentration, and eventually the microalgae will die. Okay, so what we can do for this heavy metal removal, it's more towards dilution. It maybe towards a more preferable concentration, and that will suit the microalgae and also the bacteria interaction. I hope this can get your understanding. Because there's also one of the studies that they say they have this bacteria that consume these heavy metals or waste pollutant. It will convert into biohydrogen. Yeah, so that is one of the way they say that microalgae bacteria consortium is the future of wastewater treatment.
Dr. Samuel, do you still have any further questions on it?
Thank you, Dr. Kon, for your answer this question. Actually, in my place in Indonesia, we have a problem about heavy metal in around our sea, and so like mercury, it's very dangerous for our sea in for sometimes heavy metal inhibition like the food organic nutrition for cultivation, microalgae cultivation. And thank you very much. And actually I have one question for Dr. Kwan about your photobioreactor. I'm very interested about that tools and how what can we, how your photobioreactor, that your sensor detect heavy metal, maybe?
That is also one of the limitation I can say, because heavy metal, it cannot be detected using UVVs. So it might use maybe some advanced like XRD, those type of equipment, not the photodiode. Yeah, so that is another limitation, because for the cultivation one is more towards the production, it's not towards the treatment.
Okay.
When we talk about bioremediation, or we talk about treatment, that is maybe we need to modify the photobioreactor itself. But I believe when we talk about bioremediation or treatment, we will not use photobioreactor anymore. We will insert to the wastewater treatment plant because it's so large.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kwan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Heli.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Samuel, also for the question and also join this session. Dr. Alfred, do you want to add something to the same questions?
I think Jerry has answered the question.
Okay. Any other questions from other participants? Okay. From student, I guess. Come on. Okay, this is the best time for all of you to ask as many as questions, because now you are here with the expert fund. So don't hesitate to ask your questions. I believe that now on your mind has come up many questions, but still you have to have your breath to give your question. Come on. Any other questions? Okay. Any other questions from? No, not yet. Okay. 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 Still, there is no questions here, so I will continue my delay question, my postponed questions related to how this IoT system can be integrated to the systems. Okay. Okay, I was wondering with the phycocyanin control with this IoT system, because still I'm also working on the phycocyanins, and the most challenging one is how to purify these pigments, because phycocyanin is pigment group of phycobiliprotein. Okay, that is not easy to be purified. And how this IoT system that you develop can easily to purify this phycocyanin from other pigments?
In terms of purification, IoT system will not help to purify. But the thing is that we need to have the LBF system. We need to know the phase component, and let the phase component do the purification. But in terms of higher purification, we might need the membrane filtration, because anyhow the LBF system still have limitation. We cannot assume that it is perfect. I believe we also have some of the work that use the membrane filtration to separate the what we call
phycocyanin.
Phycobilins.
Phycobiliproteins.
Yes,
yeah.
That is the various type of protein pigment complex.
Yeah, because all of this phycobiliprotein is accumulate at the same time. So what I'm wondering to know is how this IoT can help also detect this accumulation, a specific accumulation of CPC or picoerythrin or other group of picobiliprotein?
One thing we can do is that when we do conventional cultivation of the microalgae, we can make sure that we can stress the microalgae to produce most of the C-phycocyanin. And we try to make sure that it will not produce other types of what we call that, phycobilins.
Phycobilins, yeah.
Yes, we stress the algae to focus more towards C-phycocyanin. Like in my case, I'm doing the astaxanthin. Astaxanthin, it has a lot of families. Yes, zeaxanthin, it has fucoxanthin and so-type. So what we want to focus is that what we can do is we control the culture medium. We make sure the culture medium, it will has the highest production of CPC. Second is that we can control the parameters, like in terms of lights, nutrient starvation, the pH, some sort of that will stress the algae, like in this case is spirulina, to produce more CPC. And then the third thing we can do is that we make sure that IoT itself, it has the same parameters. It will run the same parameters to cultivate the spirulina microalgae and to avoid any biosynthesis of the phycobilins.
Very interesting how technology can help us more to get functional product, and also how to control the algae growth, especially here. Okay, I guess let me check the chat box again. Okay, I guess almost all the questions has already delivered to the speaker, and then again, thank you for a very great presentation, Dr. Aprap, and also Dr. Koo, and also thank you too for a very wonderful and inspiring discussion today. Okay, let's close this session by giving the symbolic of the appreciation to both of you here. And here for Dr. Aprap. And again, thank you, Dr. Aprap, for sharing your idea in this lecture series. And another certificate is here is another certificate for Dr. Koo.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ali.
And thank you to both of you for sharing and give a very, very great presentation. Okay, everyone, now we come to the initiation of this lecture. Please don't forget to fill in the list of attendance, share in the chat box or in the slide. In the slide. And now let's close this session by giving very good appreciation through this button to all of the presentation. And again, thank you for all the speakers who already give they great ideas and also very, very awesome presentation today. Okay, hopefully to see you again in the next opportunity. And thank you for join and come to Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, even in virtual. Hope to see you all someday in the near future directly in Bandung, especially in Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, and might be directly also met all of you in the class. Okay, again, thank you for this nice guest lecture, and see you all in the next other occasion. Okay, thank you to all of you.